Join us now for more on the state of tech. Our guest host for the hour, Geoff Yang, founding partner at Redpoint Ventures. That you were early on so many different things, Yang, right?
I've been lucky. Been in the right place at the right time.
You can either say that, or you have great people on the team working with you at Redpoint. That there's a lot of ways of deferring the compliment. Anyway, what is the current state of tech right now? It's a year ago, I felt like it was unstoppable, and it was the future, and that mankind was going to benefit, and we were all going to just go into the future singing and all together. Now it's so contentious, so many different issues, so many different things that on a daily basis we even argue about, political, privacy,
right,
Libra, all these different things happening.
Well, so certainly we're in the hot seat. There's no question. I believe in the long-term ramifications of what technology can do in bringing productivity improvements, bringing new ways of doing things, disrupting industries. And I think that long-term trend is definitely intact. But it's clear that the profile of the technology industry, and maybe we've gotten a little bit ahead of ourselves, particularly as it relates to certain public policy matters and the effect on opinion and the effect on disruption. We're definitely under fire. And so I think it's very hard not to. It's very hard to ignore those realities of what we're facing. And you kind of have to understand it, or at least have an appreciation of where it might go. And right now, there's a lot of uncertainty.
What do you mean when you say we could have gotten ahead of ourselves? What you mean you guys it's that move fast and break things sort of ethos that maybe it's...
And you look at Facebook as an example. I mean, its global reach is astounding, and what you can do, the good that you can do on the platform, and reconnecting people with others, and sharing opinions and reflections with like minds is absolutely a wonderful thing. I mean, it's analogous to kind of what the telephone network was. But the flip side of it is people are abusing it, and there are a lot of people with black hats that are doing things that were unintended consequences of the same wonderful platform. And I think, I don't think our industry is really prepared for all the ramifications of that.
It's interesting that you bring up the telephone industry, because that was eventually broken up. You think that happens here?
So, and specifically with regard to Facebook?
Facebook, I think, is probably the target number one, right. But you can point to probably 4 or 5 other big companies.
Sure. So let's talk about Facebook for a second. So I think the first thing to understand is that by its nature, it's a natural network effect business, a little bit like marketplaces. In other words, it's useful because everybody's on it, and because everybody's on it, you want to be on it, right? If others weren't on it, you wouldn't want to be on it. So
unless you're Yogi Berra, nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded.
Exactly, but it's one of these things where, kind of by its nature, if it's successful, it's going to be a highly concentrated business. So, like marketplaces, I think you're likely to see businesses that have real value with a lot of people are on it. So then the question is it too big, right? And should it be broken up? And one thing, just kind of conceptually, my belief is that it provides a lot of great things, just like a communications network provides a lot of great things, and being able to link everybody to anybody else. And how great would it be if you picked up the phone and only a third of the people, were on it? It would have much less value. So you got to be careful and think about the good that it's doing, not just the harm that it's doing, right?
But so the question that I'd ask is, there have been some very controversial decisions that Mark Zuckerberg has made,
yes,
including around political advertising and other things.
Yes.
That he has done, arguably even, he would say, or suggest it's more for philosophical reasons necessarily than even economic ones. I don't know if that's right or wrong. But do you think that he's just, would you agree, for example, with him, or would you agree with Jack Dorsey at Twitter in terms of how you think about some of these issues?
Personally, we are plowing new ground from a public policy perspective, and Facebook in particular is, at the very forefront trying to figure out, what's right. And I think regulators are trying to figure out, hey, what's the best thing to do? And I think the reality is that the regulators are always going to be behind, the platform, and so something has to be done, right? And that's a lot of the public outcry, I think, for the argument for breaking it up. And when but I do think there have to be more rules of the road. And when you ask about the question of, do I think it'll be broken up, as I look into the subject about kind of antitrust, and I don't really know nearly enough, only enough to kind of be dangerous, I think it's kind of a little bit of a murky argument about what the consumer harm is, on a free service. And so then you go to restraint of trade and market power, and I think it's a hard argument to make, as I understand it, from a legal perspective, because antitrust laws and antitrust framework wasn't really contemplated for this type of environment.
I would have said the same thing about AT&T Time Warner, though.
Okay, fair enough.
We may be dealing with new rules that are getting made up along the way.
I understand, but we're dealing with the new rules that are being made up as we go along versus traditional case law and traditional framework.
Right.
So then, but I think there are definitely issues as regard to privacy, with regard to data portability, and with regard to freedom of speech. And I distinguish freedom of speech from freedom of expression, right? It's kind of the yelling fire in a theater, issue. And I think there have to be rules of the road on what is acceptable speech. I think there need to be rules of the road in terms of privacy, and there need to be rules of the road in terms of data portability. Right. But I think all those can be handled outside the framework of a breakup, personally. Something analogous to a consent decree.